How much did you sense kind of a little bit of an unfinished business from, I guess, the older guys, the guys that were on the team last year after the Clemson regional ended?
Yeah, a little bit of let's do this type of phrase, anything that would fall under that umbrella, and maybe a little extra sense of determination. But again, I think this team has kind of formulated their own personality, which has started to come out a little bit more. Zane Denton's a good good example of that in parallel to what the whole team has done. And then just that kind of same theme of let's keep getting stronger in any area that we can. And that starts as an individual. Again, let your personality come out, maybe get better in an area earlier in the year that you struggled with. And then as a team, keep pushing forward to try and find our best baseball.
You mentioned Zane Denton and his personality kind of coming out as the years went on. What about some of those other transfers, maybe Maui and Andrew Lindsay and Griff? Yeah,
I mean, Lindsay, we knew this right away. He's going to be true to who he is forever for himself. And it's one of the things that makes him a strong personality just when you're conversating with him or in the dugout and, of course, on the mound as well. And it's an attribute we thought that would be great either at the end of games or potentially starting games to see how things would unfold. And sometimes things are kind of out of your hands. Maybe it could be a higher power, it could be whatever, but the way the season started to evolve, he ended up in the spot that he did, and he's individually capitalized on it, but the team has benefited from, him just doing well in the particular role he's in, and then you can look on down the line. I think any of Frank's guys that have run out there have started to really get comfortable at what they're doing. And then, Maui, it's just about being on the field. He's kind of had some nicks and knacks and things like that. And Griffin has been a leader from day one. He's just kind of got that mojo and that level of maturity about him. You guys probably enjoy interviewing him because of that level of maturity. That's been there even before his time here. So, and then Zane he had a quite an interesting path to get here. And then when he got here, just so much adversity and different things that didn't allow him to get into rhythm on this campus. And right now, I think he's in as good of a rhythm as possible. I mean, dating Taylor Swift, apparently. At least that's something about that on the group me. Sometimes when they get going on the group me and it's not that important, I don't pay full attention, but something to that effect.
Southern Miss has the home field advantage, but what competitive advantage do you feel like your program has to take it in Hattiesburg?
You get to this time of year, and we've seen it, whether it be in Lindsey Nelson Stadium or this last weekend. Fortunately, I've coached long enough, Frank has too. You get to this time of year, no one is not going to be pouring their heart and soul out onto the field. You can come up with whatever set of circumstances you want for coaches, players, fan bases. Everyone's going to give it their best go. And it is a baseball game, so there's a lot of crazy things that can happen. So really, whatever competitive edge you're looking for, it's got to be based off what your team has become throughout the year. And there were some teams last year that served as good examples for us now of, hey, maybe the quickest path or best path from A to B isn't a straight line. And for us, there's no way it's been a straight line. So I think whether we're playing in Hoover, Clemson at home, we finished the year in South Carolina. It's kind of our zigzag path, ups and downs, roller coaster, whatever it's been throughout this year. It's who we are. So stay true to who we are. And who we are is a group of guys that are pretty capable when we're playing our best or close to it. But throwing out the word best is ironic because I don't think we've necessarily found that yet, especially over the course of a complete weekend.
What makes Tanner Hall so effective?
He takes advantage of hitters that are overzealous, really preys on hitters that are overzealous. And again, we go back to the point of everyone wants to give it their best. Well, it's important to define what that is because try hard isn't necessarily your best. And he doesn't have a lot of try hard in him. But again, if you got a hitter in the box that's a little overzealous, he takes advantage of them. And then he's, looking for you to beat the ball into the ground. And his stuff matches up with that approach, and it's worked well for him to get ground balls, in particular against Samford. in the regional outing he had. I know he came back and threw again on Monday, but in that game in particular. And it takes two to tango. He can face a hitter that's either really talented or has the perfect approach, but he's good enough to get guys out mano a mano as well. And then as we try and get our pitchers to understand this, especially when they're freshmen, there's other things besides pitching. You got to be well-rounded at getting in a little rhythm on the mound, defending your position, holding on runners, and he's really well-rounded at all those things that you could define as extra. But as a coach, you throw them all in the same hat of being a pitcher.
Look, you talked about Griffin's maturity. After that Florida game, when you guys kind of salvaged Game 3, he said this was a team that, people wouldn't want to see in their regional. Obviously, that was during a rough stretch. I mean, how much did that mindset kind of help everybody else?
I think it helped. As a coach, you want to put up the caution sign. I think the concept is dead on. What he might have said, I think, was Hoover, because Hoover can be a really lengthy tournament if you advance, and that didn't work out so well. As a matter of fact, he talked at his post-game presser at the regional about wish he could have been in Hoover longer because that was his only SEC tournament. But the concept that he brought up did hold true in a regional, and I think what he was getting at is, our guys really believe in themselves and what they are capable of doing when they have their best approach at the field. And what the backbone of that confidence is the pitching staff. If we've got to go deep into a game, or it's an extra inning game, or we got to rely on this guy to get us, 100 pitches, in Burnsy's case, we've got guys that can do that. And there's a multitude of guys.
Yeah, just looking ahead to Southern Miss here, obviously they've had a tremendous season in their own right, but is there any glaring weaknesses that you notice with Southern Miss's team that you're hoping your squad exploits?
Coach Barry covers those up. That's why he is who he is. So that program has been very well known in the baseball community for quite a while. The park tends to play a little offensive. So they've always had good offenses, but if you watch kind of the way they've done things since he's been there, there's a well-rounded offense there, and it all stems from guys being competitive. And you got a group of guys, again, you get to this time of year, you could say it about anybody, but there's older guys that have experience before, and they're hungry to get to whatever the next thing is in the playoffs. So that's what's going on there. And then the pitching staff, heck, we saw one of their guys that was a part of a great pitching staff last year in Waldrop, and even though he's not a part of it there's more. They've got a closer that's done well for them, and we haven't really ever declared a closer, but again, to go back to that Burnsy example, you got a starter that's coming out of the pen, and so he's able to give you 100 pitches. Storm's done the same for them, and Hall's leading the way for them. So pretty good club. But I could be standing here talking about any, if we weren't fortunate enough to play this weekend, which we are, you could rattle off any of the teams that are still alive, and it's going to be the case for all of them.
How good is it to see Blake Burke kind of string together some really good at-bats there during the regional?
Yeah, Luke Bonfield, who I coach and is a part of our staff, he basically predicted a base hit for Burke before on a swing and miss. At the beginning of the at-bat, just based off the position he was in when he had that swing and miss. And so it's great to see it happen, but if you're going to practice what you preach, what you're looking for is approach and, kind of how a guy's going about things as opposed to what he does. Because a guy could smash a ball and the center fielder could make a great diving catch. But if you just look at the position he's been in his takes, his swings, when he fouls a pitch off, it's been completely different than it had been in the weeks prior. And that's where you get confidence when you're sitting there watching as a coach, or it's encouraging even if he doesn't get a good outcome out of the at-bat. And I don't know if he sees that, if he watches video, or if he's feeling that right now, but that's what's going on. And it falls into the category of him being himself in the box, because you guys have asked about him in good times and in bad times. It's a great swing. It's a gorgeous swing. So why not use it? And he did that down there in Clemson.
Might have been your best weekend defensively of the year. Kind of what went into that effort, and then specifically, are you ever surprised when you see Maui make a play that he does?
No, I mean, I think he made a really big play that gets lost because we had a a decent advantage over Charlotte in game one. Hollis is on the mound. It's the ninth inning. Any team's going to want to kind of try and, give it the last hurrah or whatever it might be. And he made a play up the middle that he kind of made look easy. It was a huge play. And you could talk about the double play. But when he's hooked up in the manner of, like, Bradfield and him know each other from last summer with USA, and everyone knows how quick Bradfield is, he makes that play because of the intent is there. And baseball's a game with a lot of repetitions. As a hitter, you have to hit, and you may strike out, you may get out, and then you got to go play defense. Seconds later, you may be required to make one of those plays. So one thing for Maui, just in this example, since you brought it up, and then the others too, is they don't have room to not be hooked up. And Simo is a guy, again, when he's kind of will to win, Simo, pretty special. And this time of year, I fully expect the opponent to be doing that as well. But our guys are a good team, and they become better than that when they're all hooked up on the pitch that's about to take place. And I think that took place last weekend. And so on the defensive end, you saw guys shine through with what they're capable of doing. Even on some plays, C. Scott almost makes an unbelievable catch that probably leads to us finishing that game in 9 innings against Clemson. So even just kind of the way guys were approaching things, whether they made a play or not. Jared Dickey throws a guy out at the plate, even though all the coaches are yelling, no, 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 throw the ball to second. It's time of year kids play. They decide, kind of like, no, 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 don't take me out of the game for a pitcher. It's kind of fun watching them play. And when they're hooked up, again, it's a team that can do some things.
What has Camden meant to this program over the last 5 years?
A lot. That's my guy. And you like a kid like Redmond Walsh and the fella you mentioned and others. They're out there, they're in the box, game is on the line, or they got the ball in an important situation, and you can go like this and be like, I know this kid's character, I know this kid's preparation, I'm good with whatever happens. Good, bad, great, indifferent, terrible, and he's one of those guys. But from day one, he's been a contributor. He's pitched in the postseason a ton and had success. We don't win an SEC tournament without him. So, and he's a joy to be around. And then he'll forever serve as an example of a kid that matured in a lot of different areas, off the field, on the field. Just the one thing we can't do is any before and after weight room pictures with Camden and show them to recruits, because we won't get any. Trust me, Q's earning his salary, but with that one, we got extenuating circumstances. But he's a warrior, so that's too long of an answer to do in this particular presser.
Have you ever had a player that paces as much in the dugout?
Stephen Crichton is a kid who at a different school eventually had to be told, you can't do that anymore, dude. He was a freshman at the time, and he eventually kind of cut that out and, had a very successful pro career. Another great dude right there. So it's one of the things you like about coaching is these personalities you get to be around and you get to talk about. But I think he's kind of picked that up because there's other leaders too, but he kind of sees this in his head appropriately. This is his team. And he is one of the older guys, and it's important. He wants to be ready prior to pitching, and then when he's pitching, he's moving all over the place and doing all kinds of extra stuff too. And at first it would stress me out. Now I like it. I think it's a sign, again, of him being hooked up and his intent, and also a little bit of his, if you want to call it swagger, that's fine, but just a little bit of his belief and confidence.
Anything else, Coach Vitello? All right, thanks, everybody.